Good morning, students. Can you see my
Good
screen?
morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Good morning,
morning,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes,
Good morning, ma'am.
Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We can.
I just review what we done in the last class. We were talking about a chief information officer or a chief technological officer who initially was known as EDP manager, electronic data processing manager, and that was the term because his role was very much confined to uh, compiling of data and processing that into information. Now, today he's a visionary who dictates the IT structure of an organization. He, in fact, he dictates the IT structure. So he, in fact, says as to what is the technology requirement of the organization. And but his position is at a threat because there are many user people from the user area, employees from the user area, like say for instance the finance head or the marketing head, who has an inclination in IT, develops himself, and he becomes more acceptable to the organization. The CIO, in fact, is seen as an imposter, and because they feel the other employees who come from different functional areas, whether it's finance, HR, or marketing, or operations, they see the IT manager as an outsider, as an imposter for the organization. They feel that he comes from a very structured environment, and as such, he has no understanding of the business. So we automatically they prefer to accept somebody who's from a functional area to take the place of a CIO, because they believe that he has an understanding of how the business organization works, while the CIO has comes from a structured environment where predictability and accuracy is valued, and environment is a VUCA environment. It's a volatile, uncertain, complex, V for volatile, U for uncertain, C for complex, and A ambiguous. It's a VUCA environment. So he comes from a structured environment. He has no knowledge about how the business environment works, where change is the only thing which is found to be constant. So there's a constant threat that he faces. So we advise him to get a knowledge about how the business works, work in consultancy organization, develop soft skills. Like we took the example of a doctor also. He's good at clinical skills, but today there is a new like say subject or topic we talk about is medical communication, wherein we see that only clinical skills do not play. You need soft skills, you need an understanding. So if a surgeon is going to operate a patient, he needs to explain to the patient party very diligently, very softly, empathetically, as to understand like what they would be going through, knowing a dear one is going to be operated. So empathy, soft skill, understanding, listening to the patient are also important factors. So similarly, soft skill is necessary even for a IT manager, because basically he'll be selling his ideas. So we advise him that make your attend the meeting, let there be visibility, let people notice you, put in your suggestions, team up with somebody, get close to somebody from the line, so that when you make a suggestion, it is you get a backing, and then build credibility for yourself. By how do you build credibility? By reading the process, understanding the processes used in the organization, and suggest how IT could improve them. So build credibility for your area, build credibility for yourself. So this is constant threat, that because we find that there are many people who are not from the IT area, but they have made it big in the world of IT. So we'll take up one such person who has made it big in the world of IT. In the subsequent class, we'll take up a small discussion on profile study of Steve Jobs, whose name I'm sure all of you are familiar with. Today we'll just discuss throw light on Devang Mehta, who was the NASCOM chief. Now, can you see the slides?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So this,
Visible
Yes,
now.
ma'am.
okay, this is Devang Mehta, who died very young, very sad, a tragic death. He's synonymous with terms like roti, kapra, and makan, and bandwidth. So that is the term that he used. So he was the founder of the NASCOM chief. Let's see his profile. He was born on 10th of August in 1962. And barely at the age of 40, he passed away by a massive heart attack in, I think, a hotel room in Sydney. He was born in Umret, which is a very small village in Gujarat. But because of his contribution in the area of technology, his uh, his village now is a very developed village. So he was born in a very small village called Umret, a small village in Gujarat, and he spent first 6 years of his life there. And later on, at the age of 6, he came with his parents to Delhi in pursuit of education. There he studied in Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan school, and after passing out from the school, he did his plus 2 in uh, in the science stream, and he had a dream to become a doctor. So he appeared for the medical entrance exam and qualified in three prominent colleges in Delhi, which is really very difficult, including AIMS. But then the admission policy was such that you required a minimum percentage in the three major subjects: biology, chemistry, and physics. While his score in physics was less, and therefore he could not um, take admission in any of these medical colleges. So he could not become a doctor, his dream of becoming a doctor. So he went to Bombay and pursued arts. His parents were not very happy with his decision, and therefore he came back to Delhi, and then registered under a chartered accountant to become a chartered accountant. So he was a chartered accountant by profession, but he got a break to take over as a NASCOM chief. This also he did took up very hesitantly, because he had many interests which he wanted to pursue, and he knew if he took up this position, there are many other interests that he'll have to forego. So he took up a decision after a lot of thought, and the decision was that he will work in office only 3 times a week. So let us review his personality. Born on August 10, 1962, in Umret, a small village in Gujarat, the first 6 years of his life were spent in rural surrounding, which instilled in him a love for the soil for India. At the age of 6, he came to Delhi with his family, parents, in pursuit of education, and took formal education at Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan. In 1979, he got admission in three medical colleges in Delhi, including the AIMS, but the admission policy rules were such that he could not finally continue there. His marks in physics in high school was less than a certain cutoff percentage, therefore, he could not continue, and he was unable to fulfill his long cherished dream of becoming a doctor. Then he went to Bombay. Disheartened, left for Bombay and joined St. Xavier's College in the arts stream, where he studied political science, history, and French. But as his parents were not happy with his decisions, he came back to Delhi and pursued chartered accountancy to become a CA. Eventually, he became a CA in 1984. All through his students' years, he was engaged in a assortment of work, which added to his skill, which added to his professional credentials, and which also added to his personality. However, the turning point in Mehta's life came in 1991, when an old-time friend and industry veteran, Harish Mehta, offered him the charge of NASCOM. So he became the NASCOM chief. NASCOM is National Association of Software and Services Companies. He also accepted this after much thought, much deliberation, and much hesitation. He accepted it in the condition that he would report 3 times a week as a part time assignment, so that he could pursue his other dreams. He envisioned a scenario for India which at that time nobody could dream of, where he felt that because we have technology talent, we have IT talent, we can place India on the global map simply because of your software and service talent. So he envisioned a scenario where India could find a place on the global map on the strength of the technology talent and skilled IT manpower. And he laid the foundation of what became India's most powerful growth engine, the country's IT BPO sector. spurred by the growth of India's software and services export, which drove the industry to become a significant contributor to the GDP, to the extent that it increased. The software services sector grew at the rate of 50% per annum. So you can imagine the growth rate. So it became a significant contributor to the GDP. He made innovation a key goal for the IT BPO sector, which helped build an ecosystem where creative solutions could be built and delivered. However, he had a very untimely death by a massive heart attack in a hotel room in Sydney. However, in this short span, he could provide high visibility, high profile, and created India incorporation software brand in the global arena. So in the world map, India became to be known as a software and service exporter. It came to be known as a major software and services exporter, which grew at the rate of 50% per annum from 1.28 billion in 1991 dollars to become a 6.2 billion in 2001. The period between 91 to 2001, 91 was the period when he took over, to 2001, so in a decade, it was a period of transformation and growth. It was a growth period and transformation both for Devang Mehta as well as for NASSCOM, and each grew sustenance from the other. Each grew sustenance and strength from the other. Devang grew in stature and he gained respect gradually within the Indian ICT sector as an industry leader. He came to be known as an industry leader. So the period 1991 to 2000 was wonderful for both, for the services, software and services sector, as well as for Devang Mehta. And both grew strength and sustenance from the other. Devang Mehta grew in stature, gaining respect within the Indian ICT sector as an industry leader. And also, NASSCOM began to evolve into an association of substance. And it wasn't long before NASSCOM had a key voice of the Indian software and services segment. It had a key say in, devising the IT law, the cyber law, and so on and so forth. NASSCOM had become the key voice of the Indian software and services segment. And Devang Mehta laid the foundation for a robust software sector and continued to play a key role in building process. Software export got it foreign exchange, and he dreamed a dream and championed this vision. So also he continued to play a key role in the building process, recognizing the potential of software segment as a major foreign exchange earner. So there was increase not only here but the demand, and they were able to export. So Devang launched the India crusade. Devang dreamed his dream, championed this vision. Soon he came to be known as an evangelist. What's an evangelist? An evangelist is a transformer. An evangelist is a missionary. An evangelist is evangelist is a missionary, is a preacher, a reformer. So he came to be known as an evangelist in the IT circle. And he became synonymous with terms like roti kapra or makan and bandwidth, because he said that the essentials are not only roti kapra and makan but also bandwidth. So he says that the essential for our country is the basic essentials, as we say, is roti, food, kapra, and makan, shelter, and also bandwidth. He added this term, so he came to be known by terms like roti kapra or makan and bandwidth. And he made India a superpower, made India an attractive destination for the US Fortune 1000 companies. So these companies took their requirements from India. They took their basic requirements were fulfilled from India. So he made India a superpower, an attractive software destination for the US Fortune 1000 companies, where 266 of these companies outsourced their software requirements to India. So from US, 266 of the US Fortune 1000 companies, they exported the software requirements to India. Now let's see his interests. Like we said, he did not want a regular job. He said, my job would be to be here 3 times a week. So he had an assortment of interests. He had a skill in writing. He was interested in writing. He participated in politics. So he had interest in journalism. He participated in politics. He had a passion with computer graphics. He learned about this at the Imperial College London. He also developed interest in movies. So he's known to have made an ad film. He had interest in ad film making. So he had a variety of interests: writing, reading, computer graphics, politics, etc. So he was interested in journalism. He participated in politics. His passion was computer graphics, about which he learned in Imperial College London. Here he developed interest in movie. He also had interest in ad film making. He was introduced to a director of art cinema. I think you all are familiar with his name, Shyam Benegal. And for
Yes,
entire
ma'am.
two, yes, I'm sure you all are familiar. So he was introduced to the director of the art cinema, Jainier Shyam Benegal. And for entire 2 months, he worked under him as a spot boy. He had no qualms about working as a spot boy because that's what interested him. And because he could understand the ins and outs of movie making by being with him. So he was introduced to the director of art cinema, Shyam Benegal. For 2 months, he worked under him as a spot boy to absorb the finer nuisances of filmmaking and get a feel of the action behind. And ultimately, he made a documentary film which was about Indian tourism. It was a 20 minutes documentary called Glimpses of India on Indian tourism. And this won him an award at Commonwealth Film Festival in Leeds in 1983. So he has got accolades of various kinds. Now, in his writing skill, he was so skillful in writing. He would write columns and opinion for journals like Red Herring and Business Week. So he had writing acumen, and he wrote opinion and columns in countries leading business dailies like Red Herring and Business Week. Another passion was computer graphics, about which he learned, I think I've told you about this, at Imperial College, London, where he had his first encounter with the movie and filmmaking. Now he used his writing skills. Now he used his writing skills to not only for writing skills as a powerful tool. So when you have writing or organizing skills, or let's say soft skills, uh, apart from writing, you will be able to organize your thoughts. You will be able to organize your thoughts. And he was able to organize his thoughts and sell his ideas to the various people in the industry, the people, various people in the government, and thereby, he could have many of his wishes fulfilled. So he used his writing skills as a powerful tool to preach the what we call the Bible of IT to the Indian, to the industry leaders, to those in power in the government, that was gradually awakening to the digital world. So digitalization was still trying to find a foothold. That was gradually awakening to the digital world. He wrote opinions and columns in the country's leading and business dailies. He wrote special supplements on Indian software industry in international journals. See, he used this. He used his talent. So when he wrote for the business dailies abroad, he wrote about about the Indian talent that we have, and this is where he convinced businesses abroad to outsource their work to India. So he used his writing skills as a powerful tool to preach the Bible of IT to the Indian industry, to those in power in the government, that was gradually awakening to the digital world. He wrote opinions and columns in the country's leading business dailies. He wrote supplements on Indian software industry in international journals and shared his opinion that also changed the world's opinion about India and the Indian talent. So that is something, there is a mind block. So you need to break that. So you need to break that. So he used his writing skill to sell India, to sell Indian IT talent, to sell Indian uh, software talent abroad, and change their opinion about India. However, as we say, he was found dead in his hotel room in Sydney. His body was found after he failed to wake up. So somebody knocked on his door and there was no response. So they broke open and they found he was dead. And it is said about him, it is a big loss to IT. If there is any person in India, excuse me for a while. Yes, he was found dead in his hotel room in Sydney. And when they knocked on the room, there was no response. So then they broke open the door and they found that he was dead. He died of a massive heart attack. And Pramod Mahajan, then IT minister, said, "It is a big loss to IT. If there is any one person who deserves credit for promoting information technology as an industry in India, it is definitely Devang Mehta." This is what he had said on a networking trip with Mehta in Australia. And at New Delhi office, employees looked stunned and had tears in their eyes when they heard of his death. So the Computer World magazine called him as Software Evangelist of the Year. Software evangelist is a preacher, a reformer, a missionary, and he gave him this title 3 years in a row. He was also called the IT Man of the Year. Geneva-based World Economic Forum selected Mehta as one of the 100 global leaders of tomorrow. He built a global brand equity for India's software industry and campaigned against software piracy. He was a champion of Indian software exports, which have ridden the crest of global IT revolution. Now, he was born on 10th August 1962 and he died on 12th of April 2001, barely at the age of 40. And his place of death was Sydney, Australia. Now, these are his contributions. He was the president of NASCOM. He had a blueprint for the IT industry and knew how it could be used effectively to change the lives of India's teeming millions. He wanted the benefits of IT to reach to the grassroots levels. So it was not that he said IT is only for the top few. It is IT is only for the elite class. He wanted IT to reach the benefits to the rural poor as well. I have he was there as a chief guest at Nirma where I have met him, and there he gave examples how they have been using IT. Like he went to a region in Kutch where they found ladies making this kind of an embroidery on shawls and stole. So he gave his tie and asked them to make this kind of an embroidery on the tie, and through the net they could engage with the tie company abroad and sell their products. So he said IT is not only for the top elite class, it should reach the masses and the benefit of IT should reach them. So 1 year of the demise, Devang Mehta Foundation was created to fulfill Devang's dream of an IT literate India, where he said it should move to the grassroots level as well. And this Devang Mehta Foundation Trust is a public charitable trust formed so that the name of Devang Mehta is remembered in future, and one remembers the pioneering effort and hard work he did in establishing India as a IT power. He believed to narrow the digital divide, to skill the underprivileged youth with focus on entrepreneurship, to solve rural challenges, to establish, maintain, manage, and assist institutions engaged in education and training in IT and internet technology, and conduct research in IT and other fields of education. To encourage the basic objective was the foundation was to encourage and assist deserving students in the field of IT by supporting them with scholarship, prize, awards, trophies, merit certificates, either at the school, college, institutional level, and to implement any scheme for providing livelihood and upliftment of poor. So this is it. Even in Umret, his birthplace, the birthplace of Devang Mehta, India's former poster boy for Information Technology Center, there it's become a historic place. It will get a center where the local youth gets trained in technology and conventional sectors, which has been rolled out and it has been supported by this Devang Mehta Foundation. The center gives exposure in emerging technologies and they try to deploy it in the industry. Technology is changing fast and creating new jobs. The young workforce should not only aspire but also experience the use of this technology. Now, people who know him closely say he had a razor sharp brain, he had a vision. He could analyze and diffuse a potential explosive solution and see opportunities well before the rest. So that's what we call a vision. He was far sighted. You couldn't even sense what was happening even in the industry, top notch, or those who were the top few in the government sector. He knew to sell his ideas. So the doors of every bureaucratic and politician were always open to Devang Mehta's ideas and suggestions. So you see, soft skills also play such a major role. So no matter who was in power, software was always given privilege. Software was always given special treatment. So whoever was in power, they always, so over a decade, he was there, and he could, sell his ideas. He could sell his ideas to people there. He could sell his ideas. He could sell his ideas to people there. So Devang's intensive parleys with the right people in the corridors of power. So he knew how to, get across to them. His cooperative stance with IT-related departments such as Department of Electronics, Department of Telecommunication, VSNL, Ministry of IT, enabled him to get concessions that other industries found very hard to match. So he could sell his ideas, he could convince them, and get the benefits that he wanted for his industry. And these were in the form of zero duty on software imports, to crucial income tax concessions for software exporters, to stringent copyright laws, introduction of the IT Act, which came in 2000, resulting cyber laws. Devang Mehta could push through an extensive software industry wish list. So whatever he had in mind, income tax concessions for exports, zero duty on software imports, copyright laws, IT Act, all this he could enable, he had in mind, and he could get it executed by his interface, interaction, and ability to skill his ideas to those in power. Recognizing the potential of software and services segment as I think we have already done this. So on the home side, Devang played the role of the guru. We call him a guru, we call him a reformer, we call him a missionary, guiding the central and the state government in the part of IT transformation. So he helped the state and the central government in their path of digitalization. He helped at least 19 state governments draft their IT policies and create the requisite IT infrastructure to aid the cause of software within their realms. Now, besides a dream for the software industry, he also had a blueprint for the IT industry, which could change the lives of millions. And his purpose was, his objective was that there are four essentials: roti, kapra, makan, and bandwidth. And he wanted these benefits to reach the grassroots level. Just as the flame of his brilliance was reaching its peak, he died out of heart attack at a young age of 40. He was about to reach 40, I think, in August, while he died in the month of April. A very untimely death. So here is Devang Mehta. You can just hear him on one of his interviews.
What happens is that, like we have the national highways, they can be 2 lane, 4 lane, and according to whether they're 2 lane, 4 lane, or 8 lane, the kind of cars which can go on it at what speed. Now, similarly in internet, what you have is the main highway, which is the capacity available on which what kind of traffic can flow. Now you got to increase this bandwidth so that more and more internet traffic can go. Currently, the bandwidth is very small, and that is the reason we cannot have more subscribers than what we have. Neither the quality of space available on the bandwidth is not there, so that the connections break. You don't get fast connection. You want to download, you want to do webcasting, you're unable to do for every subscriber. That's the reason if you have more bandwidth, more capacity on the cable, You will find more and more people using internet, more and more people using internet for the newest applications, for more speed, for games, for video, residential video applications, B2B, B2C, e-banking, and the software industry can earn a lot by having more and more of call centers, medical transcription, data processing, revenue back office operation, GIS, and things like that. International internet bandwidth is only about 325 Mbps, whereas on the major trunk routes we have 34 Mbps. The demand currently is 5 gigabytes, so that is almost what we are saying is 200 times more than what is the capacity available. So we need to enhance this capacity. Well, what we have been talking to the government and we have been told that the bandwidth is going to increase. By the end of 2000, we want at least 10 GB of international internet bandwidth in this country. And if that happens, webcasting will happen in a much better way than what is happening today. The quality of webcasting is only poorer because the bandwidth is not available to subscribers. What we want is a 256 KB bandwidth available to every home. What currently we have is 9.6 kbps to every home. Well, NASSCOM has launched Operation Bandwidth to have a continuous dialogue with Government of India to increase the bandwidth in this country. And we have some key recommendations for change in policy so that this kind of bandwidth can be fully utilized for more jobs, for more foreign exchange, and for a better internet connectivity in this country. Well, we have been a lobby group strongly and we work very closely with the government. In our past track record shows that we have been able to convince the government for the demands we have been asking for. So we are quite confident that in the next 6 months to 1 year, majority of the recommendations of Operation Bandwidth government for the demands we have been asking for. So we are quite confident that in the next 6 months to 1 year, majority of the recommendations of Operation Bandwidth will be able to convince the government. And so what impact will this broadband have e-commerce? Well, the e-commerce, what we have said this year, the projections are about 2,500 crore. That can happen with the current bandwidth. But we want to increase it to 10,000 crore next year and much more next to next year, then we got to increase the bandwidth. And if this kind of bandwidth would happen, e-commerce will really flourish in the country. What are NASSCOM's e-commerce suggestions what we have said is that 99,000 e-commerce transactions in the country were worth rupees 450 crore. With the passage of cyber laws in May this year, we believe that for the year 2001, e-commerce transactions can cross 2,500 crore. I think the major problem in India regarding bandwidth is that we require a change of mindset. Even today, when we're putting the national internet backbone, we're talking about a capacity of 34 Mbps. We should talk about a capacity of 10 gigabytes. China is already putting a national internet backbone of 80 GB, which will be operational by 2001 or 2002. So we need to change our mindset and put more bandwidth. If the government does not have money and the government does not want to put it, and I believe government should not, it should allow the private service people, the private operators to put this kind of bandwidth. We strongly welcome the VSNL. We are very happy about VSNL slashing rates. We strongly believe now the private ISPs would soon follow, which means it's a win-win situation for the consumer. Bandwidth launch किया है कि हम सरकार से continuously एक dialogue शुरू करें जिससे कि हिंदुस्तान में जो अभी सिर्फ 325 MB bandwidth है इंटरनेट के लिए उसको 2005 में 300 GB यानी कि 1000% उसमें उन्नति हो उस तरह की बैंडविड्थ करा सके और हमने कुछ इसमें की रिकमेंडेशंस दिए हैं जिससे कि पॉलिसी कुछ चेंजेस हो जिससे कि हिंदुस्तान के अंदर जो घर में इंटरनेट केबल टीवी पे आए जिससे कि हम वीडियो रेसिडेंशियल वीडियो सर्विसेज बढ़ा सके ई बैंकिंग हो सके B2B B2C ई कॉमर्स हो सके और सॉफ्टवेयर इंडस्ट्री में ज्यादा नौकरियां बने कॉल सेंटर्स की रिमोट सर्विसेज की ये सब जो हो सके उसके लिए हमने एक ऑपरेशन बैंडविड्थ लॉन्च किया ई कॉमर्स इस तरह की अगर हम बैंडविड्थ नहीं बढ़ाएंगे तो ई कॉमर्स का तो होने की संभावना ही नहीं, क्योंकि ई कॉमर्स के लिए 2-3 चीजें बहुत जरूरी है। पहली बात कि एक लीगल और रेगुलेटरी फ्रेमवर्क हो, जो कि अभी भारत सरकार ने आईटी बिल एक पास किया पार्लियामेंट के अंदर। दूसरा कि टेलीकम्युनिकेशन नेटवर्क हो, जिससे कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग इंटरनेट के सब्सक्राइबर्स बने, इंटरनेट के यूजर्स बने और ई कॉमर्स ट्रांजेक्शन करेंगे। अगर इंटरनेट के यूजर्स ही नहीं होंगे तो ई कॉमर्स कहाँ से होगा? और तीसरी बात कि ई कॉमर्स के लिए उस तरह के पोर्टल्स हों जहाँ पे B2C या B2B काम हो सके और उनकी डिलीवरी सिस्टम। तो मेरे ख्याल से पोर्टल्स बन रहे हैं, आईटी बिल पास हो चुका है। अब जो सिर्फ एक बात की जरूरी है वो है कि इंटरनेट की बैंडविड्थ बढ़ाई जाए, जिससे कि ज्यादा से ज्यादा लोग इंटरनेट का इस्तेमाल करें। बहुत ही खुशी की बात है कि बीएसएनएल ने दिन के लिए नहीं तो रात के लिए तो 50% रेट कम ही कर दिए हैं, क्योंकि दिन में तो वैसे भी कहाँ कनेक्शन मिलता है। लेकिन मेरे विचार से बीएसएनएल जो इस तरह का काम कर रहा है, अब ये प्राइवेट आईएसपी भी फॉलो करेंगे या शायद उनसे बढ़कर करेंगे। तो अल्टीमेटली तो हमारा ये सोचना होगा। मैं तो खुद चाहता हूँ कि इंटरनेट का भाव बिल्कुल जीरो होगा, लेकिन मेरे ख्याल से वो बहुत ज्यादा होगा मांगना। लेकिन महीने का 150-200 रुपए अगर भाव इंटरनेट का हो जाता है तो भारत का आम आदमी इंटरनेट का इस्तेमाल ज्यादा कर पाएगा।
Students, you have heard Devang Mehta. Now, any query, just let me review. He was a person who was not from a IT background. He was a person coming from a very small village. So it's not necessary that you need to have a strong, you need to really belong to a metro. He came from a small village, Umrat in Gujarat, and he made a contribution in the world of IT. He had a dream to become a doctor, but he was disheartened when he could not pursue his dream. He became a chartered accountant. So he's one person we say he made big in the world of IT. Those who made big in the world of IT, who did not belong to the field of IT, was a chartered accountant. He took up as the NASCOM chief. Major thing that I would say that he had was he had a vision from India, and he envisioned a scenario where India, he could say, could be put on the global map. It could get recognition just because of the strength of its IT talent. And he had an assortment of assortment of skills. He had an assortment of interests, like he was interested in filmmaking, he was interested in journalism and writing, and he used his writing skill to sell IT talent by writing about the IT talent in major business dailies like Red Herring, Business Week abroad, and he used his talent to sell India's IT talent abroad. So he had a vision. And then, as we said, soft skills happen to be very important, whether it's a doctor, whether it's any person who are talking about, and particularly somebody in the IT sector who needs to sell his ideas. So he had soft skills. He was intelligent. He knew how to interact with the bureaucratic setup. So he could lobby with people in the industry. He could lobby with people in the government, and all these dreams he had for India, he could, achieve. So we call him an evangelist, a reformer, a preacher, a missionary of software in India. Any question? And he made the IT BPO sector grow, which contributed significantly to the GDP. It grew at the rate of 50% per annum in those days. So that period of 1991 to 2001 was a period of transformation and growth, not only for the IT sector, but also individually for Devang Mehta. So we wind up here by taking a small character sketch or a case study of a personality called Devang Mehta and his contribution in a very, very short span of time. Any queries you have? Tomorrow's class, we will take up a review of a small case study of Steve Jobs. And again, he had no background of information of IT, but
IT.
he has made a significant contribution in the world of IT. So again, under the topic of those who made in the big in the world of IT, but who did not belong to IT, we will take up his discussion on him tomorrow. Now, any query, any suggestion, anything that you have in mind, please
Yes,
feel
ma'am.
free to share. Yes.
Ma'am, from his video, it was as if he was talking about whatever internet grew after 2016. It was very much clear. Ma'am, I had a query that in the starting you mentioned certain points, but I'm confused whether they were about Devang Mehta or not. Ma'am, you said that he came from a very structured environment, but his colleagues did not encourage his position in the company. And also you mentioned a certain advice that he has to be more, he had to be more visible. He should have put more suggestions, get close to someone. So were these points about Devang Mehta or earlier or about the people about whom we have already studied?
Okay. Can I know your name?
Ma'am, Pratiksha Singh.
Pratiksha, I don't know whether you attended the class on
Yes,
Saturday and Friday.
yes,
On
ma'am.
Saturday, on Friday and Saturday, we discussed a topic which is the role of a CIO. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
role of a Chief Information Officer. So we traced back that the position of a Chief Information Officer was
Hmm.
initially known as Electronic Data Processing Manager, and that was way back in the early 80s when computerization was still taking a foothold. At that point of time, his role was to his role was basically a CI's EDP manager's role was to process and compile data, and later on his he contributes to creating the IT infrastructure of the company, and therefore he's a visionary, and he has a more stronger role, and his name nomenclature has changed. So today we call him a Chief Information Officer or Chief Technology Officer. So that's a position. Now, it was not in reference with Devang Mehta. It was in reference to anybody who holds the CIO's position. His position is at a threat because he is seen as an outsider. He's seen as an imposter, right? So what happens is somebody from the user area, like somebody in the, so what happens is people from marketing will see him as an outsider. They'll say, okay, he knows only about technology. He doesn't know about the intricacies of business scenario. He comes from a exact or a predictable or accurate environment where 2 plus 2 is 4. But business environment does not work like that. It's a VUCA environment, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous environment where nothing is predictable, nothing is constant. The only thing which is constant is change. So they refuse to accept him. So ultimately, what happens? Somebody from the user area, somebody from the marketing department, or somebody from the finance department takes his position, and the person from the user area or the marketing department, personnel or HR, who has some inclination towards IT and who develops himself, he becomes he takes the position of a CIO. So CIO's position is at a threat. So that's where we advise that he need not concentrate only on technological skill. Now he needs to work on business skills. So that was separate. So we took up so we took up people from, say, the finance area. So NASCOM, Devang Mehta was basically not a man of IT, but he had a certain inclination. He had ideas. He had ideas. He had ideas that how we could increase the bandwidth, and thereby the e-commerce would grow. It could we could thereby we could create a structure for the growth of the B2C or a B2B environment, right? So he had a vision. So he was from the area of finance, not an IT man. So he could take the position and transform India's face in the global world. He could transform how people abroad looked at India. He could transform the India's IT sector when he was not a man from IT. So we took an example of somebody from the user area can prove himself in the world of IT. So we just what we did is we took up a discussion as to how the position of a CI is at the threat, and therefore how he needs to what skills he needs to develop, how he needs to become more comfortable in the organization so his position is retained. And in that context, therefore, we took up people. We'll take up discussion on those who have not belonged to the world of IT but has made a significant contribution in the world of IT. So, in our discussion earlier was to what we referred to till yesterday, and today's we took up a character sketch of Devang Mehta just to illustrate. See, somebody who is a chartered accountant who knows nothing about technology, but he could make it big in the world of IT and is remembered today for his contribution. So what we did, what I talked about initially was just a review of what we had discussed in the last class. And in that context, just to illustrate that somebody from the non-IT background can make a mark in the world of IT, we took up a discussion of Devang Mehta. It was not a personality of Devang Mehta. It was a personality of any IT man, any CIO who works in an organization. His position is at the thread. And to illustrate that, we took the example of Devang Mehta. Pratiksha, am I clear?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, thank you so much.
Ma'am, I have a
Any
question.